The second episode is called The Art of War. Can we calm down? It's hats. Trucker hats.
No,
Can we relax?
there's 80 points in these last 2 episodes where I'm like, it's jeans. It's jeans.
It's just bridge. They're trucker hats. Like, get a grip.
Hi, Jillian Benzavali.
Hello, Patrick Hines.
Oh, fam. If you're looking for more Jillian and me, all I ask is that you kindly join us on the Patreon.
Please RSVP.
Please RSVP.
Because it's a party and everyone's invited, is what we're trying to say.
Look, it's 350 full ad-free bonus eps. There's so much amazing stuff there. The bad vegan one.
Yes.
The whole thing about John Wayne Gacy where I was like, I would have fallen victim to that because I thought he was charming.
It's the Gacy thing on Peacock, because there are a few Gacy things now.
You're right. I also like the Menendez murders one, where it was like Eric basically narrating the documentary on a payphone from prison.
Yes, because it's Eric Tells All.
Eric Tells All.
Yeah, we did Wild Crime, Love Fraud, Relentless.
Oh, all the culty ones. What was the...
Heaven's Gate and The Vow.
Wild Country.
Wild Country.
Oh, my God. Somebody was just talking to me about that one the other day. That one was crazy.
Sheila. Tough titties, Sheila.
Tough titties.
She sucks.
She does suck.
Sheila sucks.
It's also ad-free versions of these episodes. There's a tier where we send you some stuff. There's a tier where we do after parties twice a month.
So, like, little surprises. It's just a party.
And guess what? If we haven't already, we are uploading our full live show from Obsessed Fest onto the Patreon for the Pates family to see.
Well, I'm just saying that it's a sight to see, as CJ from The West Wing would say.
Yes, absolutely. All right, girl, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about our second half of our coverage of The Curse of the Von Dutch from Hulu. So we're going to be covering episodes 2 and 3, because we had a lot to say about episode 1.
We really did. Most of it was about Paris Hilton. If you haven't listened, go back.
Look, they showed her for the first 30 seconds, and then we haven't seen her since.
I know.
She does come back in these last 2 episodes.
I was kind of like, is that all?
No.
No, she's got more to say.
But they did brand it like it was Paris Hilton telling us the story.
Okay? Look, when Paris Hilton officially introduces herself, I've got a lot to say.
Oh, boy. She says the word I hate, or is it a 2-word hyphenate? I don't know, but I don't like it.
So we're with that guy. Remember where we left off? They needed an investor, and this guy Peter is coming in.
No, Tony.
This guy Tony is coming in.
He's a ruthless guy. He doesn't have any spiritual faith. He just does what he wants. He's lawless, you know? I was looking for investors who would just have enough money that it wasn't a big deal.
Tony Sorensen, he is fucking rich.
Yeah, this guy, but we find out eventually it's his fucking wife's money.
Yeah.
Who did he marry?
Someone who's rich, I guess.
Some rich lady.
But he's sitting down, like this interview takes place in a room where he's surrounded by motorcycles on shelves.
I know.
Not mini
he has like
motorcycles.
9. It's like 3 by 3.
Motorcycles you can ride.
Yes.
Do you drive or ride a motorcycle?
Who knows?
Doesn't matter.
I'm never doing either.
They are life-size motorcycles. And like vintage cars in perfect, pristine condition. This guy is rich.
You just made me think of a story. My dad, my mom's girlfriend Terry, would every year on my mom's birthday would rent a Harley for her. Because my mom was like one of those lesbians who wanted to have a motorcycle but could never afford one and probably would never have like ridden it around. But every year for her birthday, they would rent a fucking Harley.
So once a year she'd get on a motorcycle?
Yeah. And Terry would drive. My mom would sit behind and hold her by the waist.
That's really sweet.
Oh, lesbians, I love you. I love you, lesbians.
I remember, I don't know what we were watching, but I remember asking my mom, have you ever ridden on a motorcycle? And she was like, yes. I was like, what is that story? Some neighbor had one and they went around the block a couple times. That's the end of the story.
Oh, but
of course,
Barb.
God forbid if I ever wanted to get one. I don't. I'm not interested. But it was one of those parenting moments where do I lie? Do I tell the truth?
Meanwhile, you're 25.
Right. But it's one of those like, and I'm like, Mom, I'm doing it if I want to.
There's nothing you can do, Barb.
Don't worry, I don't want to.
I know.
I have no interest.
Fine. So anyway, also this guy, what's his name?
Tony Sorensen.
I have Peter. I don't know why.
Oh boy.
But this guy Tony is surrounded by the signed hats of the quote celebrities that would come into the store that he thought were so fucking cool.
Yeah.
We're talking Dr. Phil.
Boo.
R. Kelly.
Boo.
Mickey O'Rourke.
He even says like, oh shit, let's put that R. Kelly.
I know.
Away. Also, Dr. Phil is fucking trash.
Yeah, get better hats or don't show that Dr. Phil. Also, can you imagine that bald doofus in a fucking Von Dutch hat?
Well, what a loser.
I know.
Also, like dangerous misinformation.
I
What
know.
a loser.
He's like the Dr. Oz of the other daytime.
Thanks, Oprah, for both of them. We have Oprah to thank.
Please don't yell at Oprah. Please don't
She did vet your people, Oprah. Now we have to deal with Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil. Neither of them are actual doctors, by the way.
I know.
Thanks a lot, Oprah.
I know.
God. Wait, but something about Tony.
Yeah.
He was born and raised in Copenhagen, right? But he's a martial arts champion.
Oh my God,
Like,
is he ever?
He could chop us both in half.
I became a black belt at 17, and I saw that another Dutch guy became a world champion. So I believe that a European guy could be the world champion now.
So Tony was a black belt at 17 years old. He can kick all of our asses.
Yeah. Oh, also, Mike Cassell wants to correct the record. It's not Tony, it's Tawny.
I know, but Tony, well, it's because it's
Tawny.
spelled T-O-N-N-Y.
Yeah.
And he's from Denmark. I don't know, but Tawny calls himself Tony.
Yes, I know, but you know what? It's Tawny. I don't
Tawny.
make the rules.
Okay, fine.
But, you know, Mike is saying that, like, this guy's fucking ruthless. Now, I was all teed up to not like this guy. I really like him.
Because Tawny, are we going with Tawny or Tony?
Well, I'm going with Tawny.
All
You
right.
know where I'm going.
All right. Well, because he says nice things about Mike. He's like,
Yeah.
look, the guy was super authentic. He was like curious about you. He really like asked questions and like really listened to what you had to say. Cut to Mike, who's like, he was an arrogant asshole. Total stereotype. I hated him. And I'm like, see, now Tawny's coming out on top here because he's the one who's
Hearing
like, what?
you call him Tawny's worth all of this.
He's like, what? I have nothing against the guy. And then he lets Mike dig his own grave
It's
by
true.
talking shit.
It's true.
Also, that's the way to play it.
Of course.
Well, I have nothing against him.
I'm sorry, but Tawny knows the game. You know what I mean?
I feel like I want to call him Tony.
I know, but I
Because
love
you
him
know
so
what a
much.
stickler I am for saying everyone's
I
names,
know.
right? But he says Tony.
Well, you do you.
I am going to do me, which means I'm going to do both.
Okay, great.
Playing all sides.
Mike is saying, look, I was looking for an investor who had enough money that it wouldn't be a big deal. He wouldn't be super hands-on. Because, again, Mike is like this idiot savant. He's like a real genius at this shit.
Yeah.
That's what that means, right?
Sort of. I don't think that. I think we've moved away from idiot savant in the last several years.
I can't say anything.
No, you can't.
But the point is, Mike just wanted someone to come in and be like, I believe in you, kid. Here's $1 billion. I'll check in on you in a year.
Right.
And that's not Tawny's style.
Right.
His name is Tawny.
I'm switching to Tony, I think. Because everyone else calls him Tony.
know.
Even Mike Cassell eventually calls him Tony.
I know.
You know I was obsessed with this all day.
Yes.
What the hell are we
Is
going
it
to call
Tony or
him?
Tawny? I know.
I went down such a rabbit hole. I wasted so much time today, and now we're doing this. Oh, no.
Oh, no, they're all dead.
Oh, God.
But Tony's fine. We get Tony's backstory. We go back to Denmark.
I'm born and raised in Copenhagen. My parents got a divorce when I was 10 years old. As a kid, I always had this survival thing. And finally, when I was 12 years old, I saw a Bruce Lee movie, Enter the Dragon. And that just blew my mind. This mentality has to be adopted somehow. Martial arts is an art. It's an art form. It's the way of living.
He like got really into martial arts and like was sort of like, I'm going to take the martial arts thing like all the way. I'm going to make it a way of life. I'm going to become a fucking champion. And he does.
Right. And then he's like, well, maybe I'll just make it in Hollywood like those other big muscly guys like Arnold and Jean-Claude Van Damme.
And those fucking idiots. But like at first, like you're like, that's such a stupid idea. Why would you do that? And then you're like, oh no, like I could see why you would think that.
And it doesn't happen.
He comes and does like a bunch of B movies, which would be enough for the likes of like me.
Right.
If I was given a lead role in one B movie, I would never see you again.
I know, never. Again, I'd be doing this by myself. I've been saying that a lot lately. Do you have something you want to tell me?
Is
Are you
Patrick
leaving?
doing Revenge of the Nerds 17?
17? Yeah.
Yes.
You know that would be huge anyway.
Totally.
Everything you touch, gold.
But yeah, I'm like, the B movies weren't good enough for Tawny.
Because he says he was like, you know, I was big on winning and discipline and being a champion, like that, everything that's instilled in you when you do martial arts. Like, I know that.
Right.
But, so he's kind of lost. Like, the Hollywood dreams didn't work out. And he was like, I don't know what to do. I really love Cadillacs, though.
So he goes to work on this Cadillac situation, and we meet this guy. I didn't write his name down. I didn't think it was important, but we learned his lower third. He's like a car repair legend.
Yeah.
He's like literally a legend for repairing car. You can be famous for anything.
Anything.
Look what we do.
Right? Remember that guy who's a professor of things you read on the internet?
Yes, 100%. You know what? Follow your bliss, everybody. But at this car repair place, the car repair legend guy, they're all wearing like greasy, grimy Von Dutch shirts, and Tawny is totally into it.
Right. So now everyone meets. Can we move on? This is we're in the weeds already with this. Everyone, like, they all meet and they all hate each other. That's the end of this.
Is Paris Hilton back?
No, not yet.
Oh, God. But wait, are we going to say that Tawny bought 51% of the company from Mike?
Oh, yeah. He's now the CEO, and Mike was the creative director, which I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Tawny has the money, he's the business, and Mike can just do his thing.
And it's good that Mike has retained the 49%, but to give up 51%, I hope it was a lot of fucking money, Mike.
I think it had to be.
I guess.
The guy has motorcycles on shelves.
It's true, but I'm like, you are bad at business, Mike. You're
know.
good at, and I don't blame you. I am also bad at business, but you just didn't get yourself a Steve like I told you to.
I know. Or a lawyer, maybe. Until it was too late.
Yeah, until it's too late.
So we start meeting a couple more people that Tony brought in. Like, he starts building a team.
There's a handful of pillars I had that I could lean up against, and Caroline was one of them, right?
When I started at Von Dutch, it was kind of like bringing me back to my creative roots. I knew about cars and I knew about motorcycles and had a music background. I originally started as the store manager and then moved into general manager and eventually was the vice president of marketing.
So Catherine Rothwell, who's now the VP of marketing, sitting at a bar drinking what, fingers crossed, is moonshine.
Have you ever had moonshine?
Yeah.
Is it good?
Horrible.
Okay.
I've had plain moonshine. You could smell it from across the room.
Oh my God,
it's like
really?
paint thinner. It's horrifying.
I'm telling you, if I ever go to prison, I'm going to make the good prison wine.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to be
And
good
I've had
at
it legit, like, from South Carolina. I've probably said too much.
I thought you meant like prison wine.
No. Not yet. We also meet Niels Jewel, and he's like, or Yule if you want to be Viking about it. And I'm like, you know what, Niels? I think I'll be Viking about it.
I didn't think Niels was going to have a big part in this. He comes back a lot towards the end.
He's the VP of international sales.
He's like the money guy. Tawny loves him because they understand Danish jokes together.
Yeah, they're buddies.
They're totally...
They're buds.
They're like the boring old white guys that always find each other at the Christmas party.
Right, but like, frankly, I'm sorry. I'm never like rooting for the old white guys, but this company needed their expertise.
You're absolutely right about that.
That's really...
Because honestly, what was Paris Hilton going to wear to Moomba?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sushi Samba.
Totally.
God, uns. I can hear the music. Ugh, horrible. Everyone's saying, like, at first, everyone kind of balanced each other out.
Tony really admired Mike's ability to see the value in things that maybe others did not, and he trusted that in him. Mike really appreciated his ability to kind of run free and not have to be under the thumb of someone. I think it was symbiotic, the relationship there.
Everyone like had the right job. They were good at it. It seems to be working here.
I love that. I love that like Mike got to just focus on the creative. Tawny got to focus on the money. Niels got to focus on being Danish.
Right. Everyone is
doing
really,
what they love.
Right. 100%.
Totally. Now, Tawny all of a sudden has to start spending a lot of money.
Tawny has put in $1 million.
Yeah, Tawny's put in $1 million. And then Mike's brother wants to be bought out to the tune of $260,000.
And Tawny buys him out, no questions asked.
But you know what? It's a good for Tawny. Like, if Tawny's like really seeing where this company is going, now he owns more of it.
Right.
Then Mike wants to buy like a brick and mortar store. So Tawny does that.
Great.
He's just like throwing it. It's also not Tawny's money. He's throwing his wife's money away.
Right. But he's giving money to everyone and everything.
I kept throwing money left and right at trade shows, distribution-wise, paying salaries and rent. I'm putting the money in to build the company, but there was no sales.
Unfortunately, there's one major problem.
There's
there are no sales.
Right.
So
he's saying like in 2001, the company is in the hole $270,000.
Great.
It's a lot of money.
Perfect. Now, I was thinking, I was like, where the hell is Bobby in all this? Because Bobby was there with Mike Cassell. Like, where is he?
And the whole thing about Bobby, so Bobby was the one who got like the Tommy Lee on the Cribs
the
thing.
Unreliable narrator.
Yeah, his job was kind of like to be out in the world, like making relationships. There's definitely some stuff missing here.
Totally.
Because like Bobby's like, I was out doing my job as far as I know. I'm going to clubs, I'm meeting the women. Then all of a sudden Mike is like, yeah, I didn't really see Bobby much anymore.
And all of the corporate people were like, Bobby? Oh,
Never
Bobby
even
Vaughn.
met
They
that
never
guy.
met him. They didn't know what he was doing. So
Yeah.
Bobby thinks that he's out there doing this really important like networking.
And it takes them too long to tell us, but Bobby owns 20% of this company.
Yeah.
Which is just like, that's just crazy.
But again, like not enough paper. And look, I don't like paperwork. It stresses me out.
Yeah.
But there's not like, how do people not know who Bobby Vaughn is? Like in the company.
Exactly. Speaking of Bobby and the girlfriend, what's her name?
Eli Jane.
I have it as E-L-I, which is probably how you spell that,
That's
but I have it as Ellie. I don't know why.
Okay, that's
but
fine.
yeah, so Bobby and the girlfriend Ellie, they go on a road trip. Now remember, they're parents. They got a kid.
So this Mark Rivas guy is back. Remember?
Mark Rivas is the one from last episode who got stabbed with the screwdriver and then he killed that guy in the parking lot and then they had like the big bro kind of gay hug in Mexico.
And then they ran off to Mexico. And so Mark Rivas has been on the run.
Yes.
He is now back.
He was only then gone for 9 months, but he came back and was sent to this juvenile prison that is like a fucking Lord of the Flies situation if Bobby is telling us the truth.
Right. And so Bobby's like, yeah, he only did 5 years, but for those 5 years, he was totally tortured. This prison, according to Bobby...
It's called the Chad.
Chad's is like Gladiator School. It's like the mini Pelican Bay. It's like the worst ever YA, you know? They did these cage fights where they would actually like put them in a cage. He had war braids, like crazy looking. He would just do some wild shit. He would get a piece of steel from like metal shop. It was a bone crusher. And then it was like blood sport, man.
The guards would like put men in these cages, kids, and watch them beat each other to death.
Now, let me tell you, if that were that would not surprise me. I think prisons are a terrible, horribly scary place, and we need to totally revamp them.
Yes.
But this sounds like we need to get to the bottom of this. Someone
I totally
has to fix
agree.
it. Robbie, I know you're very busy.
I know.
But we know you get shit done.
It's true.
So, come on.
They're saying that, like, he was so tortured in this place, and he lived. He doesn't know what happens to the guys that he thinks he killed.
Well, Bobby says he was undefeated.
Yes.
And also traumatized.
Oh, my God.
So anyway, it's 2000,
Yes.
and this Mark guy is out of prison and moves in with Bobby, Eli Jane, and their little baby.
Now, Eli and Aunt Bobby are here to say that, like, Mark and Bobby were incredibly close. That, like, Eli is like, he chose Mark over me all the time. He's choosing Mark over work, but then he's bringing Mark into work.
Well, Bobby feels indebted to Mark because Mark could have ratted Bobby out.
Yeah.
Because it was Bobby's gun. Like, Bobby could have done time for this, and he didn't.
Right.
So he feels super guilty. And now, like, you say close, I say toxic. Like, this is a toxic codependent relationship.
Like, that's what I meant. Like, there's no gay stuff happening here, but it's very unhealthy.
And there's like a power dynamic, and Bobby feels guilty, and Mark is really, really exploiting that. And so Mark is like leaving his baby and his wife and his job, and like whatever Mark says, Bobby does. It's just very codependent.
And we also learn from Eli's own mouth that she's still struggling with her addiction. So, she leaves Bobby.
She says none of us should be around this baby.
Yes.
None of us.
I just left my son with him. It's probably the best thing that happened to him, as much as I hate to admit that I was not a fit parent. But the truth is I wasn't. I shouldn't have been around that child. I was smoking meth in the other room. Bobby shouldn't have been around that child.
And she leaves the baby with Bobby and Mark. And Bobby is telling us the story about like this like two men and a baby situation where he and Mark are like raising this kid together.
Cute.
It's not cute.
It's very dangerous and very scary.
And I always think about how kids have no power. Like that's the thing that keeps me up at night.
Right.
Like,
and they're
this
like
poor little kid.
absorbing everything that's going on around them. It's like,
and like I don't doubt that Bobby loved his kid. Like you can love your kid and not be good for them.
But like you're making bad decisions every second of the day, it seems like.
Totally.
Your ex-wife is now saying that. Your coworkers who barely know you. Also, other people like in the industry, in the scene, they were like, that Bobby Mark thing was fucking bad.
And this is what I don't get. Mark all of a sudden Mark, like the newcomer here, is feeling...
Mark, the toxic friend.
The toxic friend is feeling all this ownership over Bobby's business interest in Von Dutch.
Because Bobby would like walk into work with Mark.
Yeah.
Who, Mark is like, you owe me this, Bobby. You owe me this. I did all this time. I was in that fucking cage. And so would walk into Von Dutch and be like, here's my business associate. It's so like childish and immature and stupid.
It's fucking crazy. So like Bobby is feeling disrespected. Mark is getting on Bobby. Like, why are you letting them disrespect you like this? In January 2002, Bobby and Mark take a meeting with Tawny. It's the first time that Tawny's meeting either of them.
The first time I met Bobby was when he went to the office with a black briefcase and his friend Mark. This is my friend Mark. He literally just got out of jail. He's been 8 years for murder. It's like, nice to meet you, Mark. Glad you're out. And they showed me a gun. Yeah, we have a gun here and whatever.
They walk in there, sit down, and pull out a gun.
Right. Because Mark told him it was a good idea, to which
Yeah.
I say, quote the narrator, it was not a good idea.
It was not a good idea.
Again, remember,
Yeah.
Tawny is like a 11th degree black belt. Like, he could kill you.
And not only that, Tawny is just trying to run a bit. He's just
He's
trying
the
to
adult
take...
in the room.
You have equity in this building. Let him do his job.
Right. But of course, now that this happens, like, I'm sure they were all coked up, and Mark's
Yes.
like, do it. Like,
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
And it's like, we're not in prison anymore. Like, these are not prison rules. This is a business. And Bobby, if you want the percentage, like, act like a fucking adult. But now this means that no one wants anything to do with Bobby anymore.
So,
of
like,
course not.
Tawny, and it's so funny, we hear Bobby tell the story, then Tommy fully corroborates it. Essentially, Tawny writes Bobby a contract that's like, hey, just sign this paper and then you can go do the fun part of the business that you like to do.
Keeping Bobby at arm's length.
Yes.
So he's still part of Von Dutch, but like keep hanging out with Tommy Lee or whatever it is you do.
Right. And so, like, a month or so after signing this contract, Bobby finds out that he had, in that contract, signed all of his rights over to Tawny.
Mark, shockingly, is not a fucking lawyer.
Right.
Nobody got like Bobby, no one had a gun to Bobby's head to sign this paper. He could have said, I'm sure if he said to Tani, can you give me like 24 hours? I just want to have someone else read this over. Bobby chose not to do that.
Right.
So Bobby's mad at everyone because Bobby made that choice.
And what happens was he basically, in the contract, made himself like an employee, and then Tani just fired him.
Bobby's now a, quote, licensee, which means that he sold 20% of his ownership to the company, and now he's just like out in the world.
Right. And it was only for 10 grand. It was definitely shady, but Tani's just like trying to keep the company afloat. And like Bobby is for sure a fucking... You come into a business meeting with your friend and a gun, you're a liability.
Because now it's not Bobby, it's Bobby and Mark.
Right.
And know what? Mark is a wild card and a loose cannon, and they're both liabilities
Exactly.
now. So they worked into the contract that Bobby can't work with denim. That was like a thing that he can't do. What does Bobby do? Goes right to work with denim.
Yeah.
So Tony's like, aha, fired. He's in breach. That's it. That's his way to get rid of Bobby.
And there's an attorney here who's like...
This was kind of a brilliant plan that they came up with, right? They didn't just terminate him, they had him enter into a new contract and then terminated him.
And Tony's like, it's not personal, it's business. Like, you signed this piece of paper. You could have had a lawyer read it. You didn't. You broke the rules. You're in breach. Bye.
And Tani's like, I've invested at this point like $2 million in this company. Like, sorry, girl.
And we got to figure out how to make some sales.
I know.
Because you hanging out with Tommy Lee isn't fucking working, Bobby. Like, I'm sorry.
I know.
No one wants to hear it, but it's a business.
I'm sorry, but like Lost Days at Tommyland, it's
Like,
not going to work for the t-shirt sales.
Tommyland.
You know what I'm going
up.
to call it? He said on day one, I'm going to call it Tommyland.
Tommyland. Pretty cool, right? No.
Tommyland.
And in addition to just like trying to threaten Tani, and Tani's like, nobody threatens me.
Yeah.
Again, he's
I love that
back in the Karate
I got
Kid.
you all the way on the Tani
But
train.
I just said Tony. We're back and forth. They also do the same thing to Mike Cassell, the one with the German Shepherd. Like, they beat him up, and Bobby was like...
Bobby and Mark beat him up.
Yeah, because they're trying to, like, burn every bridge.
Yes.
They're not thinking a step ahead at all. And Bobby's like, no, I was there. I just wasn't there. Like, I was there, like, in the building, but I wasn't, like, there. So I really can't speak to the beating. And it's like, oh, my God, Bobby.
Right.
So here's why they're beating up Mike Cassell, just to, like, really make it clear. Bobby and Mark are off the rails.
Yes.
And they want Mike Cassell to basically sign over all the rights to Von Dutch because Bobby didn't get a lawyer to look at the other piece of paper, and he's mad about it. And he's like, I want to do whatever the hell I want. I've earned that now. This is Mark, the toxic friend in his ear. And so, like, now they're going to beat up Mike Cassell for the rights of Von Dutch. It is a hat. It's a trucker hat with a patch on it.
But it's also, this is the guy that like was your father figure for like a decade.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I hate this
And
Mark
so
guy.
Bobby is like so off the rails. So Mike is like, okay, son, how about tomorrow you come to the office and we'll sign the paperwork
We'll go to Johnny
for you.
Rockets.
So they meet at the Johnny Rockets next to Mike's office, and they're in there for like 2 seconds. And Bobby's got this like big case that like no one knows what's in it, but he's like, it's just the contracts. But he's basically making Mike sign over the rights to the rest. And like Mike or Janelle or somebody has called the cops, and all of a sudden it's go. So Bobby's on the ground, guns in his face. He thinks that Mike has called the cops on him.
Right.
But it wasn't Mike. Mike didn't know anything about the cops. Mike was fully willing to sign over the fucking company to him.
Like, be bullied by these two crazy people.
Remember when Mike was like the scariest one in the beginning of the first
I know,
episode?
right? Now he has that old little German Shepherd. I love him so much. But this is where, remember we were talking about how Bobby's like an unreliable narrator and an exaggerator? This is proof of that. Because after we hear the story, we cut to Janelle, the ex-wife with the champagne sitting on the sea of pillows.
Yeah.
She's like, this feels like a good time to say, Mike never called the cops.
Yeah.
I called the cops.
I did. I don't know if he knows that. I just didn't know what to do. And I did it anonymously, so I didn't know if anybody ever knew that. This was protecting my family. And even Bobby, you know, I just didn't want him to keep going down that road for either of them.
I called the cops. I called anonymously. I was worried about my husband. Bobby was a loose cannon. He had this friend. Then cut to Bobby being like, no. Mike apologized for calling the cops. And that's how I know he called the cops. And it's like, Bobby, your story's full of, you're a liar.
But it's also like, how do these things get made? You were intentionally asking 5 different people to tell the same story.
I know.
How does a producer or an editor like put this shit together?
I don't know. Are we doing a good job, everyone, telling it?
I don't know.
Because then we also hear like one story from 5 different people and then simultaneously hearing another story that's happening also being told by 5 different people.
Yeah. After all of those shenanigans, right? So now it's like basically Tani is running the company and like Mike and Bobby are out essentially.
Right.
So Mike is got to bring in like more people. So we meet this guy, Christian. He's this like French guy and we get this like wild story about how
he's a fashion designer.
He's a fashion designer and they want to like, they think he's going to be good, but they want to like give him a trial run. So they're going to hire him to like build a line, and it's going to take 30 days. And he shows up 2 weeks later with all these clothes and just throws them on the floor of Tawny's office.
They tell us, they're like, he designed those flared jeans that everyone wore in 2002.
And
if
you
that
know
means
what?
anything.
Everyone really did wear those jeans.
Everyone.
And like, you look at them now and you're like, oh my God, they're so ugly.
They're horrible.
But they were like, everyone thought they were so hot at the time.
Everybody. So, of course, now that there's another designer, Mike Cassell is super insecure. He's like, I'm the creative director. I thought I was the designer.
Yeah. Just to like catch everyone up to speed, right? In the company now, it's Tawny is at the head of it. Mike, who's been with us from the beginning, is like the creative director. But now there's this French guy, Christian, who's like really the real creative designer now.
I mean, he was brought in to be a designer and design a line. So Mike is now going off the rails because he's jealous and insecure.
Right. And so Christian goes to Tawny and is like, I can't work with Mike. He's like demanding changes. Like, I'm the prodigy. He's selling merch hand over fist.
Also, Christian is not easy to work with. Again, everyone's stories. Everyone's a nightmare. Everyone is a nightmare.
But so essentially, Tawny says to Mike,
Well, I said, Michael, listen, you got to stay away from this process. Just be my partner. Why don't you take your 49% and go to the beach and surf for 6 months and check out and come back and enjoy the success?
just like collect your earnings. And fucking Mike can't just take the money and walk away.
He can't just, and Tawny's like, think about it.
I know.
Figure it out. I'll give you a little bit of time. And Mike just can't do it.
Because my thing is like, I'm a worker too. I never want to like go live on the beach for 6 months life. But like, if I built this great company and I had all this success and now it's going in another direction without me, but I'm 49%, take the money and start something else.
I know.
You know what I mean?
And because you're miserable, Mike.
Yeah.
But no one wants to, because everyone thinks they created the brand and it's their thing. No one, it's a pride thing. No one wants to let go of Von Dutch because, quote, they created it.
Yeah.
You can't have 6 creators. If you all weren't in the room at the same time,
right.
You can't have all have created it.
No.
But also, like, things like this evolve.
Right.
So for the fact that everyone, like, needs to be the winner is so stupid and short-sighted.
And I think because we're meeting these people after the fact where they didn't get any money for it, so the only thing they have is the claim to having started it.
Right.
That's why it's important to them, you know?
It's all they have.
Ultimately, it's not working with Mike because he's just like making life miserable for Christian. And so like Tawny, because he's the only one who knows how to read or write a fucking contract, has this like buy-sell option where basically he went to Mike and was like, all right, this partnership isn't working. I'm exercising the buy-sell.
It's basically a right to sell or buy, but you have to get reimbursed whatever you put into it. And Michael had put nothing into it. I had put $2 million. I said, you have to pay me back the $2 million and you get the company, or you pay me nothing and I get the company.
Now, Tawny spent $2 million, and he knows that Mike doesn't have $2 million and can't raise $2 million. And so essentially, Tawny is exercising his right to take the company and give Mike nothing.
Right. And Mike, and he says, Mike, you have 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You have 2 weeks to tell me you want to do this. And after you say, yeah, I do want to buy it back, you'll then have like over a month to give it back. Mike just ghosts him.
Because what's so crazy about this, if Mike had read the contract or anybody had read it to him, they would have been like, don't let him spend more money on the company than you can pay him back.
Exactly.
Because when he's putting $2 million into the company, he's doing that knowing that at any point he can exercise his right to demand that money back from you or the company is all his.
And no one's learning anything.
Right.
Because this just keeps happening. Like they keep getting burned by the business and no one's like, maybe I should. I mean, call 1-800-LAWYER or whatever. I'm not saying you have to pay someone $500 an hour, but like.
Send Robbie a DM.
Right.
She'll get back to you. I promise.
No, she
don't
won't.
do that.
Do not do that. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
But like, no one's learning. The same thing keeps happening and they just keep getting madder and madder, but no one's like learning from it or trying to, I don't know, just do better.
I know.
They're just screaming about how they're the creator. It's just a bunch of babies crying and whining and stomping around.
Also, so when Mike gets like bought out of the company for nothing, he goes,
I was blown, like, in disbelief to have repaid me in the way he did. It's just, that's where that saying comes from. There's something rotten in Denmark.
That's where the expression, there's something rotten in the state of Denmark comes from.
It's
honey,
Shakespeare, Mike.
It's Shakespeare.
It's Hamlet. It's still about like corruption or whatever. So
there you go again with your private school education privilege. Great.
Actually, Mel Gibson didn't say that. That Polonius guy did. That's from Clueless.
So the way episode 2 ends is like now Tawny and Christian are like running the thing by themselves. And this is where we get the trucker hat. This is like the biggest fucking thing to happen in fashion.
We had a bunch of fabric, old, vintage, pinstripe, and herringbone, classic Americana. And those scraps It'd be 25 feet of something and 10 feet of something. I said, why don't we do trucker hats with this?
Basically, they're just getting trucker hats, sewing the patch onto them and selling them for $42, $65, the leather $85 trucker hats.
Now, I gotta say, they're making the trucker hats out of these like scraps of really fucking cool material.
Yeah.
And when Tani, the head of the company, sees the hats, and the hats are incredible. Like when you see them now and you try to put yourself in the mindset of like seeing them for the first time, they don't look like a fucking Nike hat. They don't look like, you know, your run-of-the-mill baseball hat or whatever.
They were all different colors. They were all different prints and patterns. Yeah.
And because like, they were like made by a real actual artist and they look fucking cool. And their suggested retail price is $19. He's like, nah, $49 for the cheapest.
For the cheapest, $85 for the leather. And he walks in on Monday and he's like, were we robbed? Where are all the hats? And they're like, no, girl. We sold out of all of them. Now, we were just talking about this off mic. I don't remember anything before or since of like the fact that every kind of celebrity from like Whitney Houston to Britney Spears to all of these people, Halle Berry, wearing a trucker hat. That is such a singular look.
Yes.
They were wearing it on every red carpet, everything. Like, I don't remember any other piece of clothing or any other brand that had that happen.
No, and they talk about it as like before the advent of social media. So like when you would see them in the pages of like Us magazine or whatever, you would only see it once a week. So you would like run out and have to have the thing that they had. But this is where we meet this guy, Tracy Mills.
Oh, he's awesome.
He's basically the celebrity whisperer because his brother's a basketball player, so he has access to all these famous people.
His lower third is fashion icon.
Yeah, and he makes a deal with Christian. Essentially, Christian gives him a job, being like, I'll pay you to bring your famous friends in here.
Which is what Bobby Vaughn, the unreliable narrator, that's what he thought he was doing. But Tracy Mills could actually do it.
And he was bringing them into the store. They closed the store for 3 hours for Whitney Houston. And Tani has this moment because he's like, she took 50 bags. Is that okay?
She took like 2 of everything.
Yeah.
And so they ask, like, the bad news. Whitney Houston took a bunch of shit, to which he replies.
He goes,
have you ever heard her voice? Have you ever heard her sing? Like, do you remember The Bodyguard? Like, give her 30 bags. Because he's the best singer I've ever heard in my life, and I still get goosebumps. Look. So Whitney Houston can have 100 bags.
Have you seen The Bodyguard?
Yeah.
Have you heard her voice?
You heard her voice? Give her 100 bags. Give her the keys to the store. What do we care? It's Whitney Houston.
What kind of homosexual response, Tani? Jesus Christ.
Have you seen The Bodyguard?
I know.
So now, but like, because of these trucker hats, like that was the thing that finally stuck. And now they're making like $150 million a year.
Yeah.
That's how episode 2
ends.
And
that's how episode 2 ends.
Bye. Episode 3 is called Von Douche.
Look, this title, I gotta say, like, I like the documentary, but the title of episode 3, Von Douche, really, really did it for me.
Your girl Paris Hilton is back.
So Paris Hilton does that thing where they introduce themselves to the camera. Like, we've done a couple of these talking heads. You're like, say your name, say your job.
Right.
Paris Hilton takes it upon herself to say,
hi, I'm Paris Hilton. I'm a fashion icon, a CEO, and a boss babe.
I'm a fashion icon, a CEO, and a boss babe.
You lost me at boss babe. We went through this 4 weeks of the Lurich.
I gotta say, to call yourself a fashion icon, Paris, it's okay if I do it. It's okay if somebody else does it. But to refer to yourself in all seriousness as a fashion icon.
You're talking. Does she follow us on TikTok?
I don't know.
Because you're talking to her.
I'm
like
talking
she does.
right to you, Paris. It's not that you're not a fashion icon. It's just weird to call yourself that.
I'm fine with fashion icon.
Yeah.
CEO. Yeah. Great. Boss babe.
Tell her.
Lost me.
I want you to tell her.
I'm sorry, Paris. You lost me. She doesn't care.
She
rightly doesn't give a shit what I have to say about her. She
No.
shouldn't. She should not care at all.
We do learn that Paris Hilton is like responsible for like being one of the first to like really blow up the brand. Before she went and did that show, The Simple Life, which by the way, how do I not know every episode of that show?
I don't know. That seems right up your alley.
I feel like that I was in college or something when that show was on, or maybe I was like my first couple of years. I'm not a big TV person. I feel like someday we're gonna like have a conversation about the golden age of TV, and you're gonna talk about Succession, and I'm gonna talk about The Simple Life.
Probably.
But like they go into the Von Dutch store right before hitting the road for Arkansas or wherever the hell they go, and they come out with literally 50 bags of clothes and becomes their uniform for the whole season.
Yeah, Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie. And not just their uniform on the show, every time they were photographed anywhere. Yeah. The jeans, the shirt, the hat, it really was their uniform.
And I gotta say, the shit is sexy. Do you not agree?
It's a look. But the thing about it that the Von Douches, how they would wear it, is it was always like to the side. And it was like if you could wear it like effortlessly,
Yeah.
but it got to the point, and Paris says this too, where she's like, now I wouldn't even wear it like as a joke, but she loved it so much, but now it became like, and she says it in, I'm sorry, Paris, like kind of a gatekeepy way, where she was like,
And like it used to be very cool people wearing it, and then all of a sudden like this whole like cheesy random crowd started wearing it, and then it just became not cool anymore.
like first like the rich and famous people were wearing
Right,
it, and then
yeah.
like the normies started wearing it, so it wasn't as cool.
And she describes the story as like, she's like, I've never done this before or since, but one day I just couldn't look at my Von Dutch anymore.
Right.
And I ran home and pulled it all out of my closet and I never looked back.
Which I understand what she's saying, because then like people wore it like a personality, and it would be like to the side and tilted, and then it was like, calm down.
Yeah, we're not there. We'll get there in a minute. We're learning that Bobby, the kid that was adopted, like that kid, he's really off the rails now with Mark. And like he's saying he lost everything. He lost his kid. He lost his house.
Yeah.
And like Niels, the money guy, and Tawny, the owner guy, are talking about like being in a car going for their Friday lunch. And Bobby and Mark pull up next to them in a car and pull out a gun.
And like wave a gun
Dangle
menacingly.
it there. Like, how many times a gun got to go off in your pocket accidentally in a Burger King parking lot before you learn your lesson, Bobby?
0
Yeah.
or 1. The fact that happened and caused a melee and like
know.
caused murders
Yeah.
and this like toxic friend Mark to be off in Mexico for however many years, like enough.
Exactly.
Enough. But so like Bobby and the toxic friend Mark are like super pissed about like what happened to Bobby with the brand.
Yeah.
And he's like, we lost everything. And I'm like, your friend Toxic Mark definitely lost things
Yes.
by being in prison, but like he has no stake in this brand. Mark is really inserting himself that like
there's a lot of drug use happening here that's not being talked about
Yes.
because they're also living together in this high-rise apartment, and Bobby tells the story of like one day Mark is just out there losing his fucking shit.
Yeah.
And Bobby's like, girl, like goes out there, tries to hold him again because that's what they do to calm down.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden they're on the 8th floor.
And he just gave me this look, because like when he snapped, there's no words. It was like he was looking at me, and all of a sudden, like, dude, next time I'm fucking hanging off the balcony. It was like that fast of an action, like, so I'm off this balcony, fucking, what's that dude's name? Vanilla Ice. I'm like basically like Suge hanging me off like Vanilla Ice, dude. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm gonna get dropped and I'm done. So I snatch his hair and hold on to him.
So he grabs his hair, then Mark throws him over his shoulder through a fucking window
like
into the living
like
room.
a glass door.
Yeah.
Again, Bobby's telling us this. Weirdly enough, I believe this story
things
because
with Mark are really escalating.
But so what happens is like now they have this big fight.
Yeah.
Now they are just completely going at each other. And Mark supposedly has a gun in Bobby's mouth. Like and Bobby's like, whoa, wait, do you want to really kill Elijah's dad? Like
Elijah's Bobby's
the
kid, and Mark
baby.
really loves Elijah.
So now he's like, and like what Bobby's not saying is that like they were totally strung out on whatever they were on. And so Bobby's trying to like talk Mark down from this. And Mark's just like so mad about Von Dutch, and like nothing makes any sense. And it's all very high stakes and very scary.
And they stay in each other's lives. You know what I mean? Like that's to me the craziest part.
Also, my question is, so Eli Jane, Elijah the baby's mom, is not there.
Yeah.
Bobby and Mark are having this fight with the gun. Where's the baby?
Right.
Is the baby at home, just in the next room while this like totally scary thing is happening? Like, where is the baby?
As a foster parent, I'm like, please just like give that baby to like a foster parent until you get your shit together.
The baby that
you know
you're
what I
now
mean?
like weaponizing
I
to
know.
try to get your life saved by this guy. Like, where's the baby?
Where's
Elijah?
the baby? I know. More importantly, where's Paris Hilton? Because as far as I know, she's jumping out of a cake at Christian's birthday party.
Christian the designer.
Yeah, they're at some party on some boat. Paris Hilton loves the brand so much, she agrees to jump out of a fucking cake, which is basically the opening act for Lenny Kravitz. Oh my God.
Right. Like
Not
Marilyn
since
Monroe.
Kelly Clarkson at the Lula Rich convention.
Katie's Perry's, as Deanne says. Oh, Deanne. But the point is, they're really trying to say, like, Von Dutch was gigantic.
Yeah.
$1 million parties, caviar-filled tubs, to which I say, why?
I know, and that looks disgusting.
What is the point of that?
They're saying that
We were doing probably 150 million a year. We would double, like we were in patterns of just doubling every month. I have brands right now that are trying to double in like 5 years. It was just exponential, the growth and the speed.
she's currently working with companies today in 2022 that are trying to double their sales every 5 years. Von Dutch was doing it every month.
Because of the trucker hats with the patches on. I mean, really,
and
that's
Paris Hilton jumping out of cakes.
Right, that's what launched them.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. I hate when people do that.
Like,
I'm
how
sorry.
does Paris have nothing better to do that night?
Well, it was her favorite thing. It was her favorite brand, and she was the star of it. Of course she went.
I'm telling you, if the Indigo Girls called me right now and was like, can you come jump out of a cake tonight? I'd be there.
You'd say bye. Again, I would be doing this by myself.
This point, we get two stories at once. We're going to tell them separately.
Yeah.
Essentially, one of the stories is that Mike, the guy that got kicked out, that go to the beach for 6 months to come check on us, wouldn't do it and got bought out or whatever.
Yes.
He is really mad and is friends with the Escobars, who are like the drug cartel family or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, according to Tawny, and I believe Tawny because like he has no reason to lie.
He's sitting there like doing expense reports.
Like he's Steving his Excel spreadsheet to death.
Like doing boring business stuff that no one wants to deal with.
Except for Steve, he loves it.
Loves it. The doors get kicked in.
Gets kicked in, and it's some guy and like a band of goons show up in his office, and the guy is essentially like, my name is Emilio Escobar. I am Pablo Escobar's grandson. I'm here to make you a deal you cannot refuse.
And it's a bullshit deal. Remember, this company is making at least $150 million a year.
It's like $460 million a year.
Even better.
Yeah.
They offer him $500,000 in cash for Tawny to walk away. And I'm like, I'm sorry,
no,
what?
The thing is, Mike is saying the story happened. Tawny is saying the story happened. Nobody pins Mike down on, was that really fucking Pablo Escobar's grandson? I doubt it. I am calling bullshit on the whole thing.
Yeah, but it was somebody.
Yes.
Like someone was hired to threaten to shake down Tawny, who's like a martial arts expert and knows business.
Right, and this guy who did it had access to $500,000 cash because it's in a briefcase on Tawny's desk.
Right. Meanwhile, we're also getting this story about Bobby and toxic friend Mark, and this is horrible because Bobby's dating this woman named Nicole. She's an ex-playmate, total sweetheart.
Yeah.
And Mark...
Have you met her?
No, someone calls her a total sweetheart. She's innocent in all this.
Do you guys DM? Like,
can you imagine? Maybe we will after this. Totally. Who knows? But Mark the toxic...
Anything is possible.
I don't know.
But sometimes the DMs really surprise us.
They do. They sure do. Mark the toxic friend picks a fight with Nicole the girlfriend.
I see this whole ordeal going with like Nicole, because Nicole's there, Nicole in the rain. I was dating her, and she was a sweetheart. She was an ex-playmate, but like 50th anniversary, and she had these diamond rings they'd given her. And Mark was always like that, take her fucking diamond. Like, I don't want her fucking ring. But I knew it was the ring shit, like he's trying to take her ring, but then I can't like diss him, bros over hoes, but at the same time, can't be a buster with her.
Everyone is fucked up out of their minds except for the girlfriend. So, like, Bobby is passed out from the drugs and the drinking, wakes up to, like, the girlfriend and Mark having the fight. Then Bobby gets up to go intervene from, like, Mark trying to rip this ring off his girlfriend's finger.
Hit her.
Right.
Hit Nicole. And Bobby today is like, I can't go against Mark because bros before hoes. Bobby, shut up.
Did he say that?
Yes. Mark is about to beat up your girlfriend.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what Mark is doing, honestly. But for Bobby today to be like, well, my hands were tied. What was I going to do?
Oh my God.
Like that you were in an abusive relationship, Bobby.
This is insane. And so he says he gets in between them and Mark punches him one time, like quick to the face and like knocks him out. So now he's down on the floor. And the girlfriend runs out of the apartment, gets in her car, and Mark jumps on the fucking hood of the car.
Hopefully Nicole drove away and never looked back and never spoke to Bobby again.
1,000,000%.
Hopefully that she's like, fuck this.
Yeah. So then Bobby's inside, passed out on the floor, and he sees Mark come in, and he thinks Mark's just gonna like walk by him and go to bed and like offer to make him breakfast in the morning. Mark breaks.
Maybe hold each other a little bit before that.
They are always holding each other. He breaks the tequila bottle and tries to fucking shank the guy in the neck.
Right. After stomping on him, by the way.
Right.
Mark's great. Let's keep defending Mark.
Totally.
Bobby.
So Bobby jumps up and like runs to his bedroom and locks the door, knowing that Mark is trying to kill him.
Actually kill him. And then they get in this fight and like they're knocking down doors and basically like one thing leads to another and Bobby ends up killing Mark and we hear the 911 call.
Hello?
Hello?
Can I help you?
Hello?
You gonna talk to me?
South Venice.
What's
There's
going on?
a shooting. It's in the house, man.
Is it a house or apartment?
It's in the house. I had a shooting, 20 South Venice.
Is anybody hit, sir?
Yes, one person shot, dead, right now.
Okay, you killed him?
Yes, did.
Okay, stay on the line,
Right
please.
here.
Stay on the line, 1 moment.
He's very much trying to like be as not honest as possible about what happened.
But also saying, I killed somebody.
Yes,
So
finally.
he's like as honest as he can be in one sense.
Yeah, he like doesn't know what his story is yet.
Right, but he is saying like, no, I shot somebody and they're dead, and I killed them.
Yes. Well, put a pin in that story. We're back to Paris Hilton. She thinks the brand was soups oversaturated.
Right, and she's not wrong.
Yeah,
right.
That's
She's
true.
like, to be fair.
And because there's like lots of knockoffs. Like they're saying like if your main brand is like a logo, anybody can recreate that.
And also like the brand is worth over $1 billion, which means that the sales are through the roof, which means that everyone's buying them.
Exactly.
As ridiculous as an $85 hat is, everyone had it. And so then, like, it wasn't just like the rich and famous people anymore. It was like the normies, and that made it not cool.
Right. I mean, honestly, that's like what
say.
Paris was. And honestly, like, I was buying this shit at TJ Maxx. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
Yeah, you're eventually able to buy the Von Dutch shit at TJ Maxx.
And now Christian, the designer, is also going off the rails. He's making kids' clothes and shitty products, and he's just putting the logo on everything.
And Niels, the money guy, is like...
The brand became a parody of itself. And the B celebrities and the circus around it. And I love Dennis Rodman, and I love Mini-Me, and I love all those porn stars. But it's just not rock and roll. It's just not great denim. It's not counterculture anymore.
Don't get me wrong, I love Mini-Me.
Vern Troyer?
It's Vern Troyer. He's like, but he's not counterculture enough.
Right.
You know?
Right. So they built up this brand, and now they're all just like, and now it's ruined. It's too popular. We got too big, and now it's over.
And they're saying that, like, the thing about brands like this is that they wanted to create a classic thing that, like, you know, like with Abercrombie was talking about, you want something that's like just within reach. So it's like people
but
always
still
want
elitist and gatekeeping.
Exactly. And like Von Dutch was just like, if Patrick Hines on like TJ Maxx Cape Cod can buy the hat, then like we're done. We got a year left of this at best.
Gatekeep, but make it fashion.
Right.
Basically.
Towards the end, we're back with Bobby, who like has been arrested for killing Mark, and he's in prison in LA County. And like the other guys in the prison with him are like, they put you here for us to kill you.
Right.
Like they want us to kill you.
So he calls this guy Dale, who is the
Dale
Michael
Gallipo?
Yeah, the Michael Jordan of trial lawyers, as he calls himself. He's like, no one believes me, but I am.
I was like, the Better Call Saul of it all.
Oh my God.
The unearned straight white male confidence of this guy.
But I gotta tell you, so Bobby could go to prison for the rest of his life.
Correct.
But he doesn't, because he's been with us for all 3 hours of this goddamn thing. So.
And the point is, Attorney Dale, he's saying to us,
very often homicide cases don't go to trial for a year or two. Although there's a speedy trial right, almost always the attorneys and the defendant waive that, and continuance after continuance after continuance. I had a different strategy. We're not going to waive any time. We're going to go to trial within 4 months. I'll be ready. What's the benefit of that? The other side won't be ready.
Bobby's like, are you going to be ready? He goes, I will be ready. The other side will not.
And basically, it's now a self-defense case.
Yes, but I'm also like, wait a second. You're not banking on like actual innocence here, like an actual self-defense.
Oh, no.
You're banking on the other team just not being able to, you know what I mean?
And also saying, like, painting the picture of what Mark did, and like, it was self-defense.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, Mark isn't here to tell us his side of the story.
I agree.
You know?
I agree. But as Bobby tells it, which he will now tell the people of the court, because he testifies.
And the truth of the matter, one more thing I want to say that they don't really address is like, how much did the prosecution really care?
Yeah, probably
when you're
not.
dealing with like a murderer and you know what I mean? Like,
right. Like that Mark wasn't the best guy. So what you're saying is that the prosecution was like, who cares?
Right. Which I'm not saying is a good thing. I'm just saying like, that's another reason why probably Bobby got the result that he did.
Right. But they hire this detective to investigate the case, basically. And so like his identity is concealed. We don't see him. But what he says is like, his whole point is like,
Dale's focus was proving the self-defense. So we wanted to really look at it with that set of eyes of, let's show a jury how this was self-defense. Why was Bobby so scared of Mark? In doing an investigation, trying to contact people that had any interaction with Bobby, they thought he was a nice guy. He's not really a gangster, you know, he's a celebrity gangster.
He's not a gangster. He's a celebrity gangster. Like, Bobby wanted everyone, including everyone watching this documentary, to think that because every time he tells a story, he's on his feet. And he always wants everyone to know that, like, whatever, we were 14 and killing people. And, like, he thinks that's cool. And this detective whose identity is concealed is like, he wasn't that at all. Like, he wasn't some tough guy. Of course it was self-defense.
He wasn't. And also, everybody really liked him. Like, he was charming. And
he told the hell out of that story.
Yeah, and, like, that's what the attorney is saying. Like, I put him up there because I knew he could, like, bring us into the room. He could bring us into how much he like loved to hold Mark.
Right.
You know?
And also like how abusive that relationship was. Because it really was.
Yeah.
And at one point Bobby says like, I felt like a woman in this relationship.
He says that like 800 times.
I know. Meanwhile, it can happen to everyone. Anyone.
Of course.
Anyone, everyone. And like this happens in friendships all the time. I've seen it happen.
Yeah. And so he looks at the jury and tells his story, and the jury...
Do you think they allowed him to be on his feet? Like they allowed him? He's up on his feet the entire documentary. You can't do that in a court of law.
It's true. He was very animated.
But I'm sure he did that only like, and he's like, if I could get up right now, I would tell you.
So the jury goes out, and Bobby's attorney says to him, like, all right, it's going to be a couple weeks, just so you know. The jury is back in 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
That's usually not a good thing.
No, but it's great for Bobby. He gets off scot-free, not guilty of all charges.
Anything.
Then everyone's like, great. great. Is this over? No. Because we realized in 2004, Von Dutch was a fucking Nazi, the real guy.
Before he died of liver disease, Von Dutch wrote a letter that remained a secret for years. He wrote, quote, I am not willing to go through it anymore, only to emerge in a place full of, and here he used the N-word, Mexicans and Jews. He went on to say, I have always been a Nazi and still believe it was the last time the world had a chance of being operated with a logic.
The final nail in this company's coffin is that, what's the guy's name from the beginning?
Grumpy Ed.
Grumpy Ed, the guy with the lube in the...
who was just mad at everyone the whole time.
He's mad at everyone. He was the original guy with the patches, and he got screwed over and bought out long ago, gets no money. So his final act of revenge is to release this letter that the original Von Dutch wrote on his deathbed, like in the 50s, literally saying, I am a Nazi, Heil Hitler.
Right, and I'm like, fantastic.
I mean, it is fucking... And then you see Tawny,
yeah,
who's like, his eyes are just so
everyone's
wide.
like, fuck.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, Niels said, the other finance guy basically is like, so when that happens, you just say, oh my God, you totally disavow it instantly.
Yeah.
Because there were these like secret letters that also Grumpy Ed knew about and had for years and was still like selling this guy's shit.
Totally.
He knew that 100%.
Everyone here is garbage, but like you never actually see the receipts of the fucking shithead being like, he says the words, I'm a Nazi.
Right. He says the N-word, he says horrible things.
We see the letter. It is crazy to see it.
It's crazy.
This is the thing where I was like, earlier in the day before I got to that part, I was trying to find original artwork by him to buy.
No. That's why I said, don't get too attached. We're going to hate him in an hour. Because Tawny says, wait a minute. If Ed always knew that Von Dutch was a Nazi and he was the first guy to slap his name on something, ergo, Ed must be a Nazi.
And also, Ed is the first to tell us.
If they would have paid me, I would have buttoned my lip.
Ed.
I would have kept my mouth shut. Like, Ed, you're not saying what you think you're saying.
You're trash.
You know?
And so now Ed is like crying over what Von Dutch would think of what happened. Fuck, he's a Nazi. Let him cry. That's the nicest thing that could happen to him, that he's crying over his fashion brand.
I couldn't agree more.
Break.
So, in the end, we learn that Mike got a hip replacement. He's now sober.
Right.
And he's ready to launch his next big idea. Tawny sold the business in 2008. He's now a fine art photographer. I'd love to know what he got for the business in 2008.
I know. An undisclosed amount.
Undisclosed. And Bobby just wants to live to save lives now.
Yeah. But it ends with Tracy Mills, fashion icon, the guy who could speak to celebrities. This is great. Because he's like, look, everyone was coming up to me saying that this company was racist, and there's no concrete evidence of it. It's all hearsay. Then we hear from behind the camera, oh, do you not know about the letter?
You know about the letter?
And he goes,
God.
what letter? Please tell me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. And Tracy Mills has the best reaction because they tell him, he's like, what, N-word? Nazi?
Yeah.
And he like reads the letter and he basically is like, you know what? Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
See, he put it out there in the universe, and the universe is like, oh, that's what you don't want? Here you go. Here I come. Maybe that's why I came in. Like, God is like, oh, okay, I got you. I'm going to bring one.
I hope he knows that a black man came into his company and helped make it one of the biggest brands on earth.
Yeah.
That good. You know what? I'm glad he's a Nazi.
Fuck that guy.
No one's glad he's a Nazi. But Tracy Mills has the best reaction of like, you know what? Fuck that guy. I won. Because I get to be Tracy Mills every day, and that guy has to be a Nazi. Tracy Mills wins again.
Oh, girl, we did the curse of the Von Dutch. Oh, my Lord.
Cursed it was.
I know.
God, this went on forever.
Fam, if you want more Jillian and me, and I'll say it again, who could blame you? You know what I mean? Go join us on the Patreon. Over 300 full ad-free bonus episodes to download a binge right this second. If we haven't already, we will be uploading our live show filmed live at Obsessed Fest.
Oh, wow. You are in for a treat.
You really are. Multi-camera angles, highly edited. It's
fancy
so
pants.
fucking good.
Not a Von Dutch hat to be seen.
Not a Von Dutch hat to be seen. That is true. What are we doing next, girl?
All right. Well, it is spooky season, right?
Yes.
So we are doing the 48 Hours episode covering Lizzie Borden.
Oh, shit.
I know. It's crazy.
Oh, my God. I lived right next door to that town in Fairhaven, Massachusetts.
Really?
Yeah. Well, great. So stay tuned for the trailer for that. Our funny and hilarious outtakes.
Yeah.
Follow us on the TikTok. It's True Crime Obsessed Pod.
Right.
Aaron is crushing it over there.
Right. And then also the videos are being posted on the Instagram, which is True Crime Obsessed Podcast.
That's right.
That's right.
All right. We love you.
We love you.
We'll see you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
It is a morning like so many other mornings in a small town in New England.
A father, a stepmother, living with his 2 adult daughters.
Lizzie was seen by the next door neighbor, and the neighbor asked what's the matter, and she announces that her father has been killed.
Law enforcement personnel arrived and found a gruesome murder.
2 bodies, a lot of blood. There is a husband downstairs, 10 wounds to his head.
And almost half of his face is obliterated.
And just on the 2nd floor was his wife.
When someone is struck multiple times with a hatchet to the head, that's personal.
Everyone can have a friend, and everyone can have a job doing what they want, as weird as it is.
This is what I love about our Jillian. The thing that Jillian goes to bed at night like scared about is that there are people out there without
who
friends.
are lonely.
I
That
know.
makes me so sad.
I think about that about you all the time. I do.
I don't want to talk about it because I feel like there's someone lonely out there.
But that's what we're here for.
Right. And the internet, too. Like, don't go to the dark parts of the internet. But, like, if there's something that you're super into and you feel like there's no way that someone's into it, there is.
That's true.
There is.
And like,
someone into
let's
it.
make it like the good positive.
That's what I mean.
You know
Don't
what
go to the dark end of the internet.
No. Because you will find those people there.
And that
you're
also
all
keeps
gonna
me
get
up at
caught.
night.
You're all gonna get caught. Emilio Escobar or
Pablo,
whatever.
you get that name right. You
No,
end
he's
up
not.
dead.
He's not Pablo.
He's Pablo Escobar's grandson.
Does he say his name is Pablo?
But it's Pablo Escobar's grandson.
That's what I was gonna say.
Oh, you said Emilio.
I'm saying he's Emilio, Pablo's grandson.
Oh, go ahead.
You didn't let me finish.
How does it feel? How many times do you say, well, say that? And I'm like, I was gonna. When you Google Ryan Phillippe, are they pictures from today or from Cruel Intentions? Be honest with me.
Well, because
that hesitation says it all.
Aaron, show them why. Aaron, it's this picture from Cruel Intentions. That's where I start. But this is what Phillippe looks like today.
Great.
He looks incredible. And I'm sorry.
Paul Rudd, please.
Paul Rudd's right there.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
It's not as good.
I don't think I'm looking. I'm sorry, Aaron. I just made your job very difficult. Everyone can be great looking.